Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about a pretty huge revolution happening in AI. And the wild part is, it's not happening in some giant, far-off data center. Nope, it's happening right here, probably on the very device you're watching this on. So let's dive in. Okay, so check this out. A new AI model called Gemma 4 drops, and in its very first week, it gets downloaded over 2 million times. I mean, that's not just a big number. That's a signal flare that something really important is going on here. So what's the big deal, right? Why is everyone so excited? Well, this isn't just another AI model getting tossed out into the world. The insane popularity of Gemma 4, it's pointing to a massive shift in how all of us could be using AI. And I mean, like, very soon. All right, to really get why there's so much hype around Gemma 4, we've got to talk about this thing called the local first revolution. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like, taking all that AI power out of the cloud and putting it right in your pocket. So, the big idea, the technical term behind this whole revolution is something called edge inference. And don't worry, it's simpler than it sounds. It just means running these super powerful AI models directly on your device, your phone, your laptop, without ever having to connect to some big server in the cloud. And doing it this way has some awesome immediate benefits. For one, things are way faster. No internet lag. Your privacy gets a huge boost because your data never leaves your device. You can even use it offline. And maybe the best part, you are in control. You control your data, you control your tools. And believe me, people are starting to notice. This quote from a developer on social media really hits the nail on the head. He says local models are now good enough for a ton of different jobs. And that's making people look at their expensive cloud AI subscriptions and ask, wait, why am I even paying for this?
And look, this isn't just some abstract idea, it's actually happening. A demo went totally viral showing Gemma 4 just blazing along on a future iPhone, hitting 40 tokens a second. Now, if you think of tokens as basically words, 40 per second is fast. That's more than fast enough for a totally smooth, real-time conversation happening right there on the phone.
But here's a really important piece of the puzzle. Gemma 4 didn't just appear out of nowhere from one company. No way. Its incredible success was really powered by an entire army of people, a whole community.
Yeah, this was not a typical top-down corporate release. This was a global, grassroots, but also super coordinated effort from the open source community. Everyone was working together to make absolutely sure this thing was ready to use for everyone from the second it launched.
I mean, the scale of this teamwork is just mind-blowing. You've got literally a who's who of the entire AI world involved. We're talking hardware giants like NVIDIA, huge platforms like Hugging Face, and all the essential tools like Allama and Docker. Everybody was on board from day one. It just goes to show you, for an open model to really make a splash these days, you need this kind of massive all-hands-on-deck support.
So why is this happening? This incredible collaboration isn't just happening for fun. It's really a direct reaction to all the problems and, frankly, the frustration that a lot of us are starting to feel with those big, closed-off AI systems.
And you've probably heard these complaints, right? People are just getting tired of it. They're tired of the super high subscription costs, they're frustrated when the service just goes down for no reason, and they're definitely annoyed when a feature they love suddenly gets locked behind a new paywall.
So all that frustration, it's fueling a huge counter-movement. And that's why, for a lot of people in the open source community, this whole shift to powerful, local AI, it doesn't just feel like a nice option to have anymore. It feels, well, inevitable.
Okay, but while all this is happening in the open source world, this focus on access and local control, the big tech labs are playing a totally different game. They are locked in a battle of giants, a race to build the absolute biggest, most powerful AI models ever, the so-called frontier models. So what we're seeing is the AI world splitting down two completely different paths. On one path, you've got the open local AI movement we've been talking about. And on the other path, you've got these closed frontier models. Their goal is just raw power. They live only in the cloud, and they cost an unbelievable amount of money to create and operate.
And when I say unbelievable, I am not exaggerating. Just to give you a little perspective here. Anthropic, the company that makes Claude, says its annual revenue is heading towards $30 billion. That's the kind of cash that's fueling this race for bigger and bigger models.
And it's not just about the money they're making, it's about what they're spending. Get this, by 2028, some projections show that OpenAI's bill just for computing power could hit a staggering $121 billion.
We are talking about a game that only the absolute richest players can even afford to be in. But here's the thing, and this is maybe the most important point of all. This entire race, whether you're talking about the open source community or the corporate giants, it all depends on one single critical resource: computer chips, the hardware that makes it all run.
And what that means is that the fight for AI dominance is really becoming a fight for computer chips, for silicon. And this battle isn't just about which company has the best tech anymore. Oh no, it is quickly turning into a massive geopolitical showdown.
And if you want a perfect example, just look at what's happening in China. There's a huge new model coming out called DeepSeek V4, and it's being built specifically to run on Chinese-made Huawei chips. The big Chinese tech companies are placing massive orders for these chips. And here's the kicker: they deliberately left NVIDIA out of the loop. It's a huge strategic move to create their own AI ecosystem totally separate from US tech and sanctions.
Okay, let's pull all this together. You've got the local revolution on one hand, the giant frontier race on the other, and this global battle for computer chips underneath it all. So what does this actually mean for you, for all of us who are going to use this stuff? Well, it means the future of AI seems to be splitting into two very, very different paths. And those two paths couldn't be clearer. Path number one is the huge, centralized models living in the cloud. They're controlled by a handful of giant companies, and you pay a subscription to use them. Path number two is the decentralized, local models that you run on your own devices. You're in control, and they're often totally free. It's really the difference between renting a super powerful but constantly monitored assistant versus owning your own private, totally customizable creative partner.
This split, this fork in the road, really brings us to the biggest question of all. And the path we end up going down, well, it's going to change everything.
So, which is it going to be? Is the AI that shapes our future going to live in the cloud, controlled by a few giant corporations? Or is it going to live right here, in your pocket, powered by a global community? Will it be a service we rent or a tool we own? The final answer isn't written yet, but the battle to decide that future is happening right now.